It's a goal! Can you believe it? It's extraordinary.
There are some stories in selection.
Yes, there is.
And none more so than Adelaide. So let's start with the outs here as we hit round 12, as Richmond have been dealt savage blows in defence. So Asprey and Ellis are both injured. Broad's been omitted and Bolton's lost his place. Fasolo's been omitted for the Blues. Stocker is injured and Kennedy has been omitted. So there'd been that long question of where's Kennedy? Well, he couldn't hold his spot once he got there. Bowes is injured for the Suns. McMillan for North, as we knew. So Adelaide, Gibbs, Greenwood, Mackay, all omitted.
I'm surprised at all of them.
They are big calls. Whitfield's injured at the Giants. Hearn has the hamstring injury for the Eagles in a stellar season. Beams we know we won't see again this year. And Oscar McDonald's lost his place at Melbourne. So we've sort of done this each time. This is the third time that Gibbs has been dropped. He is having the most interrupted of seasons. He's had an illness, he's had back spasms, late withdrawal, and he's been dropped 3 times. The weird part in what had happened was he was omitted for round 10, where he didn't play Sandful. He was brought back in last week and then he hasn't held his place. None of this does anything to shed any light on the way that Don Pike is handling Bryce Gibbs.
No, it doesn't. And we've got Rory Sloane coming up very, very shortly. And it will be the first question. Jared, don't you ask it, let me ask it. Why Bryce Gibbs is out. I've said this a couple of times. Is there another issue with Bryce other than his playing performance? Now, there may not be, but we're surprised, other people are surprised, and they keep saying, you know, he's got to put body on body. I mean, look at that. I thought he was okay. Again, I watched
so it's very
a bit
hard.
of that game.
It feels like, so we're the layman on the outside. It feels like he either needs to play for a sequence of weeks or play at the lower level for a sequence of weeks. The chip chop, the in and out, he's playing the odds and missing the evens. It feels incredibly difficult. And
yeah, it is, sorry. And Hugh Greenwood. When Hugh Greenwood's not playing for Adelaide, I often say, God, I wish Hugh Greenwood was playing. He's hard, he can play a bit of forward, he can take his own mark, he's a pretty hard midfielder. McKay can get lost sometimes. He started really, really well, David McKay, but he's out of the team and sometimes the transition players get, but I'm really surprised about Hugh Greenwood as well.
Now, along the way, so there's 6 games. One of the key markers is Adelaide and GWS, so it's 8th versus 2nd. The Giants travel to face the Crows. This has real implications at the pointy end.
They're in great form. They've got quality in each line, and that's why they're one of the highly touted premiership fancies.
That is the Giants at their best.
You could see that the side's resilient. They came back from 30-odd points down halfway through the game against Melbourne and won.
The Adelaide Crows are going to steal this one tonight in Darwin.
Home crowd, aspirational to be higher up the ladder. It's time for us to come out against GWS and put a really strong performance on the field and get a win.
You want to be known for is a team that can play well interstate and play well in big games interstate, and it doesn't get much bigger than Adelaide and Adelaide.
The reality for us is we get a chance to play against them on Saturday night in a game which, as I said, is probably our biggest game of the year.
So we've dragged one of the captains out of dinner. He's joining us at the Rotunda in Glenelg. We are indebted to you, Rory. Rory Sloane, welcome to AFL 360.
Well, thanks for having me. I was a bit down the list, I heard, on who you wanted for tonight, but I mean, I ditched Belinda for a date with you guys, so you owe Belinda one, I reckon.
You're a good man. Now, before I let Robbo loose, just tell us, so are you all clear to play?
Not yet. I ticked off everything I could today, and yeah, felt really good at training. So I got up to some pretty high speed at training, but I've got a couple of tests that I want to complete tomorrow as well, just to go in and make sure I can feel confident.
So coming into the week, and it was a hamstring that you had scanned, were you confident? Were you hopeful? Were you less likely than more likely? What was your attitude coming towards these days?
No, after the game, I was confident because I almost came back on the ground, but there was just a little bit too much awareness that just allowed me to stay off. So, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to never really do one before, so I didn't really know the feeling or understand what I could probably push through with. And from my understanding is I might have been able to play out the game, but it could have cost me a week or two if I had have. So look, I've come into this week feeling really confident that it's going to pull up quite well, and give myself every chance to play.
So tell us, if you would, what's a rejuvenation session?
What's a rejuvenation session?
Yeah. Is that what you've been doing?
Yeah, well, I suppose so. I mean, my week's been based around plenty of physio work with our head physio, Steve Saunders, plenty of release work, and I actually got running quite early just to try and help speed up the recovery, I suppose, as well. But plenty of time in my pool, plenty of time in the ocean, plenty of stretch sessions, a bit of meditation I enjoy as well. So it has been a real week of recovery for myself rather than the extra touch I normally do, and it's good to change it up every now and then.
Great to have you back on the show, Rory. You're an absolute favourite of everyone watching football. I need to ask you a question about Bryce Gibbs. Can you put to bed any talk, and I know what's going on in Adelaide. I speak to Rowie and Bix over there. We talk about it every bloody second week. Can you put to bed, is there any other reason that Bryce is not playing senior football other than he's not meeting standards that the coaching group want him to meet?
No, not at all. I mean, his performance on the weekend, although his possessions weren't overly high, but we gave him a job to do on Clayton Oliver, which I thought he did an incredible job of from sitting on the sideline. But at the moment, I think I heard you were going to touch on a bit later, but we've got 43 guys from a possible 44 to select from. And at the moment, there's some guys in outstanding form. And unfortunately, it is a bit stiff that Bryce misses out, but we've got guys like Cam Ellis-Shulman, who I think you'd agree has been playing some outstanding footy for us. Richie Douglas comes back in, Matty Crouch, and you've got Brad Crouch in good form as well. So it really is one of the hottest spots in the team at the moment, that sort of inside mid role.
It's a miracle. You've got 43 or 44 available at this time of the year. As captain, though, how do you talk to Bryce about his footy? Do you leave it to the coaches, or how much do you involve yourself in the fallout, I suppose, for a player not getting a game?
No, absolutely we talk. I mean, he's one of my close friends, and I understand more than anyone. He's disappointed when he's not in the side. He just wants to play really good footy and solid footy for us, and he still believes, as I do, and the coaches certainly do, that he's part of our best 22. And he'd be the first to admit that he's not quite playing to the level he wants to. But I'm sure I know him well enough that he'll go back this weekend in the SANFL along with, unfortunately, Hugh Greenwood and really perform. And I feel sorry for the SANFL team they come up against, because we've got a really solid side going in with some hungry boys.
It's pretty obvious to say this is a pretty big game of football. What did last week's, I suppose, last 40 minutes do? What does it do for a team, Rory?
Well, it's massive. Just to see us hang in there, especially watching on the sidelines. It was. I just wanted to be out there, but I certainly got quite emotionally invested, I suppose. You probably saw that after the game. But to stay at it and stick at it like we did, and just put ourselves within a position to win the game. And yeah, you call it a bit of luck, but we certainly put ourselves in that position to win that game. And especially coming off a couple of close losses the last 2 weeks, it was massive for us just to get a 6-5. And we certainly know what this week brings. Second on the ladder and a red-hot GWS, it's going to be a massive game.
Is it the game you need, Rory, to fully peg where you are? As you say, 6-5, you're inside the 8. I don't think we've had you pegged one way or the other throughout the year. Do you have a grip on what you're capable of yet?
I think so. I mean, we've got 1 point to Brisbane in Brisbane. We almost beat the reigning premiers, and I thought we played some really good footy against them. But I think this is a game we certainly do need, to your point. I mean, they're in red-hot form. We certainly need a scalp, I reckon. We haven't beaten too many teams above us. I think only Port sit above us that we've beaten. So, we want to certainly prove ourselves against the top, especially the top 4 sides, and GWS is certainly one of them.
If you play, right, first of all, did you watch any of the Collingwood-Fremantle game last week, and Fife was matching up against Pendlebury?
I didn't see that game, no.
Anyway, Fife matched up
against...
against...
That's a good match-up. I wish I had have seen it.
It was wonderful for football, mate. It really was, because half the time now football teams go team against team and there's no match-ups and et cetera, et cetera. If you play, and when you play tomorrow night, are you becoming, as you get older, more of an assignment sort of midfielder now, like a Cornelio? I don't know if you're fast enough to get... I know you're not fast enough to go with Kelly, but are you the kind of guy to get a Cornelio for a little while?
I certainly do like that role. I've played it quite a bit throughout my career too, and it's one that, you said it before, I would have loved to watch Pendlebury versus Fife, but I mean, I played on Kennedy, Kennedy played on myself. We certainly went head-to-head at the start of the year, and they're the matchups you really look forward to. Playing against the best guys in the AFL certainly is something that I love doing, whether that be Danger, Fife, Kennedy, Caniglio on the weekend maybe. It's a true test of, one, can you defend them well enough? Can you beat them at the stoppages? And then two, can you get on the end of it as well?
Good luck with the session tomorrow, Rory. Say thanks and sorry to Belinda for us, and we really appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, guys.
Good on you.
Thanks,
Rory
mate.
Sloane, co-captain at the Adelaide Crows, ahead of a really important game against the Giants.
You know I love him, don't you?
Yeah.
I know, I say it every time. He is just an amazing footballer.